Hey everybody, it's Karen from Waterfall Acrylics. My hair is really poofy today. Welcome to the resin video. Yay! So first off, I'm very excited because somehow without me noticing, we broke 3,000 followers, subscribers on YouTube. So whoa, thank you for all the love and support. Very exciting. And to celebrate, I'm going to do a little demonstration of how I resin my paintings. So yay! Before we get started, I always like to show the results from the last video. What was the last video? Oh, that's how to make a clock. So there's nothing to show you there. But let me show you the last pour, which was the Twin Towers. So 2 videos before that, we finished those guys there. I put them up there because I want to talk about them as we go to resin. I'm not resining those today, but I wanted to point out a couple things on these Twin Towers. The ones that are dry, maybe I'll put it down on the, I'll lower the camera. These dry beautifully. So this is the all iridescent pour. I've decided to name these guys Caramel Macchiato. I was going to do fried egg because there's a couple spots it looks like I was frying eggs, but let me bring that down so you guys can see this right there. So those are those 2. They dried like literally perfectly. They're very shimmery from all the iridescent paints. That's the orientation for the diptych, where you can see it's a continuation in certain spots. And I'm really happy with how they turned out, particularly, and I think they look really great. I pulled the tape and they look really great next to the natural wood. So those guys are a keeper. Really happy with those. So there's Caramel. I haven't given the other set a name yet. If you hear a whistle, that's because I'm making myself a spot of tea today. And let me see. So Resining 101. We're going to do 4 little pieces today, all in various states, actually 5. Tools you need to resin. Let's start with the basics. You need painter's tape, you need scissors. You're going to need your torch. You're going to need plastic. Plastic and silicone, not silicone, silicone is your friend. When I say silicone, I mean a silicone cup, silicone tools like a silicone mixer, anything of that nature, because resin doesn't stick to it. Resin doesn't like plastic very well. So today we're going to be mixing in one of these quart cups that you get at Home Depot. Now, if you go to buy yourself, they're cheap, you know, $1.30 or whatever. You want the kind that has the ratio, not just the measurements like 4 ounces, 8 ounces, but over here, it tells you the 1-to-1 ratios, which when you're using resin comes in handy. So if I'm like, I want something like maybe 10 ounces, I can go here, find my 4 in one line and my 4 in another, and know that I will get equal amounts of both. So these are really handy. I do know that the ones at Lowe's don't have that feature. That's like all blank, it doesn't have that. So I really like the HDX ones from Home Depot. Stirring stick. This is just a little spreader that comes with the art resin kit. It's not necessary. You can use a stick to spread it. Recommend if you're going to do any sanding or you're going to use an epoxy resin that's for commercial use, that is not low VOC, then you're going to want a mask or a full-on respirator. Today, you're going to maybe want some isopropyl alcohol. Comes really in handy for getting off silicone and in a pinch getting it off your fingers. What else? I have a little piece of sandpaper to show you guys if you have to do a do-over, how you sand down your painting. What else do I have? If you forget to tape the back, instead of trying to sand off the resin bubbles, you might want to invest in something like this. This is my electric Dremel. Bzz, 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 takes off all the little bumps on the back. I rarely have to use this anymore because I always tape the backs. Makes getting the resin off a snap. And then finally, you're gonna need your resin brand of choice. Mine is Pro Marine Supplies. Good stuff, low VOC. You don't need to wear a mask to mix it. I do kind of throw on my mask though to torch it, because when you torch it, if you're new at it and you get a little close and the resin releases a cloud of smoke, you don't want that. That means you're too close. But if it happens, you know, you're like, oh, I got a little too close for a second, and then poof, you get a little cloud of smoke. That's when you don't want to breathe that stuff. That's when you should be wearing a mask. So things we're going to resin today include, oh, hold on one second, there's my tea. I'm gonna have some tea. All right, we'll let that brew a sec. Things we're gonna resin today are, I'm redoing this piece here. This is a little 6x6 on cradled wood, and it turned out pretty fantastic, except somehow, oh God, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to, you guys can be able to see it. Right here, there's like a hair. And I'm like, damn it, can you see it? I don't know if you can see it or not. Maybe if I turn this way. Right, where'd it go? Right in this cell right here, there's a big old hair. I could feel it. So I'm going to show you how I'm just going to give that a light sand. Try to sand out the, it's on the surface too. So I'm going to give that a light sand. We're going to re-resin this guy. We have another piece here that's been previously resined, and it dried fairly well. I just didn't like the edges. So this is, what is this? Maryland. I did this one back in New York. It's already been sanded just with some general purpose. Like this, scratched it all to hell really well. And then I'll take my alcohol and wipe it down. And then the next three pieces, these are little pours with leftover paint from the first tower I did, the really dramatic ones with the violet and the golds and the blacks, if you remember those. So we have one here that's just on a little cardboard canvas. And now this has 2 coats of mini wax polyacrylic as a barrier layer. And what the barrier layer does is separates any oil that you might have missed, or oils from your hand, or oil that is still mixed in the paint that never rose to the surface. It should let the resin cover this completely and have a place to cure on top of this barrier coat. So this has 3 coats of mini wax polyacrylic. You can use a spray. I should grab one, hold on. At times I've used a spray like such as, oh, let me dig it out. So this guy was the brush on version of mini wax polyacrylic. This is the spray on version, and you can just spray. I found this is quicker and easier. But the brush, because you're brushing on, it's a little thicker and it just gives better coverage, a better barrier. But if I'm doing a large piece, you know, a couple coats of this, sound effects, see, sound effects, and you're good to go. So either way, so the next piece we have that also has a couple coats of the brush on mini wax polyacrylic. And it doesn't matter if it's gloss or matte or semi, none of that, that's all irrelevant because you're going to cover it with resin anyway. And there's something on this painting. Oh, piece of tape. So this has a couple coats as well. So this one should resin fairly easily. And then last but not least, we have a piece here that has been washed numerous times. Like there is no real shine to this at all. It's been washed. It's been cured. These have been around for well over a month. So it's been washed lightly with Dawn dish soap, warm water, my sponge, wipe, 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 quick rinse, pat dry with a paper towel, rinse and repeat every couple of hours or every day until you can no longer see any sign of silicone whatsoever. Now, so this one you would think should be good to go, but because it doesn't have a barrier coat, I'm a betting kind of gal, And I'm betting this is gonna get some pits and I'll have to resand and redo it, but we're gonna give it a go. The other thing I wanted to point out before we get started on this is I want you guys to take a good look at this piece because it has pitting from the resin. There is different, this is not a smooth surface. And if I can get kind of like this, there's pitting all along this one ridge, a couple here in these cells. It's like a lumpy, bumpy mess. Now the colors are still pretty, it's still a nice piece. And I'm going to show you when you resin this, all of those imperfections are going to disappear. Like resin is a miracle worker when it comes to things like that. If you have a piece that you have maybe put a varnish on and the varnish cracked, cover it with resin. All that will just disappear easily. What else do I want to show you? I have two pieces to show you, but I'll hold on. So let's get started. I'm trying not to splice too many videos together. So what I'm going to do is you guys are just going to have to suffer through 4 minutes of me stirring. So for these pieces, you have to figure out how much resin you need. I probably only need 1/3 of a cup to do this. If you're unsure of the volume of resin that you need, please go to the Art Resin website. Find their calculator that'll tell you exactly how much product you can. It doesn't have to be Art Resin. Their product, that chart is applicable to no matter what brand you're using. So please go to the Art Resin website and find the calculator for the volume of resin you're going to need. So what I'm going to do, since I only need maybe 1/3 of a cup, I'm going to stop just shy of 4 ounces. So in here, there's 4 ounces, and there's a 1 there and the 1 there. So I'm going to go, the 1 there, and then the next line up is the second one. So if I pour here with my resin and then pour there to my hardener, that will be 1-to-1 ratio. However your product tells you to mix and do directions, if it tells you to separate them and stir them and then add them together, please follow their instructions. The Pro-Marine is by a 1-to-1 ratio, so all I'm going to do is first put on some gloves, and we're going to pour and mix in resin. Talk, 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 talk. Okay. First one, the epoxy. You want to get this as exact as possible. So please use some sort of measuring to get it as close as possible. So I'm just going to pour to that first one on my measuring cup. I'm kind of spinning around. It's messy, it's sticky, it's yucky. I have a paper towel ready to wipe it off. When I'm done, I'm gonna look and see, and I am a smidgen. Maybe I just go to 4 ounces because I have a bigger piece I could do. I'm just gonna go to 4 ounces since I'm so close. I'd rather have too much and waste a little bit to show you, just so you can see. So I'm gonna go exactly 4 ounces as I stir and pour ever so slowly. Come on, dollop. And how close am I? Pretty close, just a little tiny bit more, another dollop out of there. And there's 4 ounces. Spin that around, give that a wipe. And what you can do right now too is, if you really want to keep your tops clean, put your little stopper in, because you don't want to get alcohol inside the resin. You can take your alcohol and your paper towel, a little dab, and just wipe it off so it's not a sticky mess. There's one. Put that guy away. Put him away so you don't mix them up. Part 2, the hardener. And that's going to go to the next line, because I want exactly 8 ounces. Now the hardener's much more fluid. It pours out a lot quicker. So if you've never used it, be prepared for that, because it's not as slow as the epoxy. And just a little dollop more. Exactly 8 ounces. Stop her back in there. Put it away. Now, there's our resin. We have 8 ounces. That's way too much. But I kind of wanted to show you, and I want to show you what it's like when you have extra too. So for teaching purposes, I'm going to waste a little bit just to show you later on in the second part of this video cleanup. So yeah, you guys owe me 2 ounces of resin. Just kidding. All right, so now we want to mix. Pro Marine recommends 4 to 5 minutes. Echo, set timer for 4 minutes.
4 minutes, starting now.
So now we mix. And I gotta tell you, it's boring as all get out. I'm just gonna talk while we mix. And I'll tell you about a trick I learned that has its pros and cons. So when you're making a big batch, like when I go to resin my big painting, and I have 2 cups of this to stir. This is fairly easy because it's, you know, it's only 8 ounces. But if I had a big cup, like stirring this would make your hand tired after a while. What you can do is get another container or a bowl and fill it with hot water and set this inside your hot water. It'll make stirring a dream. It'll make the bubbles disappear, because as I stir this, you can see it's going to be very, very bubbly. The problem with doing that, with like heating up your resin with warm water, is that you lose your cure time, or they call it the open time, to work with it, to manipulate it. It cuts it down to about half. So instead of having 40-45 minutes of play time with your resin, it cuts it down to maybe 20 before it starts to harden and gets really sticky and gooey and you can't do anything with it anymore. Because that warm water releases the chemical reaction between the two. So yeah, it'll help with your stirring. It'll help with your bubbles. I don't recommend it unless you're really good at doing the resin and you have everything like lined up. Like say you're really good at doing coasters and you need to, you know, put resin on 25 coasters. You might want to heat it up and then boom, 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 rub, 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 and you're moving like assembly line and you're really quick. But if you're new to this and have never done it before, or maybe only done it once or twice, just do what I'm doing right now. Scrape the sides, scrape the bottom, and stir, 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 stir. So, sorry, you guys, you know, feel free to fast forward until I stop stirring, because that's all I'm going to do for the next couple minutes. I do want to say too, most of the items I'm doing today, or actually all except one, I'm only doing the top and not the sides. So I really don't need to raise my canvas off the surface, like off of my my counter here. If you're going to resin the sides, and we'll talk about that, you definitely want to raise your art off your table. You want to put some pegs underneath it, whatever you have, but you want it to be above your countertop if you're going to do your sides. So, tons of bubbles. Oh, I forgot to give a light sand to my one picture. I'm gonna have to do that real quick. Normally I would take, for sanding, general purpose sandpaper works fine. That's all I did on this. You just give it a quick sand until it's really dull and ugly. For this one, I just want to sand the whole thing, but get that one spot where I have a hair. And then we'll wipe it down and it'll be ready to resin as well. So, oh my gosh, I feel like I've been doing this for an eternity. Oh, yay. Echo, cancel. All right, resin suitably mixed. I'm gonna pause for 1 second. What did I do with that little piece of sandpaper? Oh no, here it is. All right, so normally I would walk outside to do this. Fast forward, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna walk outside of my deck. I'm just gonna take this and start messing it up real quick. It'll only take me 30 seconds. Fast forward, be right back. And I'm back. So this is what this looks like now, all marred up. Now, I did it, it wasn't because of a resin problem or pitting, it was because of a hair. So I can just take my paper towel, like a wet paper towel, and just give it a wipe down to get the sand off. And the reason why I went outside, and I should have worn my mask, is because the one thing you don't want to breathe in is that dust. So I don't like it in my kitchen, obviously, and I don't want to breathe it in. So that's why I stepped outside. So look, when it's wet, it brings back, oh, there's my artwork again. And then the second that dries, it'll be gone. Now, if I were sanding because it's a painting like this where I had a divot or a bubble or something like that because of the silicone, then instead of just wiping it down with a paper towel, a damp paper towel like I'm doing right now, I would wipe this down with my alcohol to try to get up any of those. So say this had some pits, I would take a little bit of alcohol, and where I sanded it, I would rub this into the pits just to try and get up any remaining silicone or oil or whatever you're using, Rain-X, whatever product, to try and get it out. That's what the alcohol was for. And plus it does help remove all the dust. So, wipe that one down again, and plus it dries almost instantly. And while I'm at it, let's take the guy that's completely unfinished, and just for giggles, let's give him one last rub down with the alcohol. Try and get out any sort of oil. So there he is. So we're good to go. We're ready to pour. I deliberately did not tape one guy just so I could show you. So we'll put him here. Let's move my resin and this stuff out of the way. I have my torch. My resin's ready to go. So let me make sure you can see everything. So this guy here doesn't have tape. I'm just going to take these off for a second so I can tape. I just want to show you that you want to tape every time, because what happens, the resin's so thick and sticky. If you tape just your sides and not underneath, it runs down your sides and then it crawls underneath and leaves little bubbles. And then you're gonna have a sandy nightmare on your hands, or you're gonna have to break down and get yourself a Dremel and sand them off with your electric sander, or battery operated. You can get a little cheap one for 20 bucks. On these cradled wood pieces, I'm only taping to that line because I want to show that piece of tape or that piece of paint on the edges there. And it has like a little edge there, which is really nice. So just real quick, you just line it up like this. Now, if you have a piece that doesn't have that lip, by all means, you can take your tape all the way up. Some people take it up higher and make like a lake with their tape so that the resin forms an edge. That's a personal preference, and I don't like that much. Or you can just tape underneath and resin your sides. And I'll show you some differences in resining the sides in a little bit. All right, so this, put this down there. Can you see? Can you see what I'm doing? Okay, down here, so here's my tape, and then I'm gonna cover up that bottom really well, like I'm wrapping a present. And then I take an edge of something, and I wanna make sure that this is nice and adhered to my wood so the resin doesn't get underneath. So that's what I've done to all of them. So that's that. And that one, we're gonna put him on a little stand as well. All right, so can you guys, I wanna make sure you can see everything. I'm gonna slide my vase over a little bit because I'm on the edge of my plastic. And I want you to be able to see everything. So let me come over here a little bit more. How's that? Can you see? Maybe I move back. And then I can come up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looking good. All right, gloves back on. Let's do this. Actually, I don't mean to have all this anticipation, but my tea is ready. So just let me get my cup of tea. Okay, sorry about that. I was so organized getting everything out and ready. I forgot my tea earlier, and I gotta have my tea. She slurps. All right, ready? So what you're gonna do, give this another little quick stir. Looking good. Follow the temperature recommendations for the product of resin you're going to use as well. If they say your house needs to be 73 degrees or warmer to use resin, by all means do so. It makes working with the product that much easier. So I'm just going to pour a line right here. 1, and we'll do some puddles on these guys. 2, 3, the one with nothing at all. 4, 5. You can use whatever tool you want. A lot of people just use their finger, particularly on small ones, to just rub it around. You can use something like this that Art Resin supplies with their startup kit. And do something like this and start spreading it around. I don't think I put enough on here. I most definitely did not put enough on here. So Let me add some more. There we go. Take my little tool, spread it around. I'm not really a fan of this. I'm a finger gal, like I want to touch the resin. With gloves, obviously. Move him out of the way. Can you guys see? Yeah, you can see, okay. But you can use a tool, you can use a stick, whatever you like. I'm just using this just to get this going a little bit, and then I'm gonna switch to my finger because I find it easier to get to the corners. Make some cross hatches. Now resin is self-leveling, so you need to make sure your surface is level first. Now I know my countertop is level, but wherever you're doing this, get out your level, make sure your surface is good to go. If you're painting or whatever, or you have it on, you know, a little thing and it's like this, guess what? That resin will run to that end. But for paintings like this guy that have the divots or the little, you know, the little pitting potholes, as I like to call them, the resin is going to self-level and sink into those. And once this cures, you won't even see those. Those will disappear. So I'm just going to go around and do my edges here because I want that little lip to have some resin on it. Maybe I'll get really lucky and this won't pit. And we're going to spread that around. And I'll probably be picking this guy up to show you what's going to happen to this guy. So right now, he looks great. We'll wait a second, we'll give him a torch to pop bubbles. Let me spread this guy around. I also want to do the lip on this one. All the way around. And I tend to spread all of my resin around first, and then I torch for bubbles. And then I babysit, and I wait about 10 minutes, and I come back and torch again if I see bubbles. And that's basically the process for about the good half hour, 40 minutes you have for the product. All right, that one looks pretty good. Big guy here, relatively speaking. Make sure I get my edges here. It is so cool once you torch and get the bubbles out and you see the art. It's like, oh, it's so beautiful. It has that instant gratification feature that I think enamors a lot of people. So, make sure I get all my spots like that. It's all pretty easy. Once you know what you're doing and have done it a couple times, you're like, oh, it's a piece of cake. It's just frustrating when you check on it the next morning and you see something like I did, like, oh, there's a hair I missed, damn it. Highly recommend you cover these. When this video is over, these guys will all go downstairs onto my drying table and will be covered for a tarp for at least 8 hours. At that point, I will uncover them and peel tape. Right around between 8 and 12 hours, I will peel tape because the resin at that point won't be sticky. It'll be malleable, that's a good word. It'll be malleable, but you'll be able to peel tape. Don't touch the top of your painting, but you'll be able to peel tape fairly easy. If you wait a couple days, it gets, the longer you wait, the harder it gets to peel that tape because the resin cures on top of it. So you definitely want to do it, you know, within that first half day. By the way, I am not an expert at this. I'm only showing you what I know and how I do it, and I've only been doing this for about a year. So feel free to like watch the art resin videos, highly recommend them. That's where I learned. I do think it's nice to have like practical tips. They're all about selling their product, but I don't think they give you all the tips about taping and using silicone products. So there we go. I'm probably gonna go through a couple sets of gloves because I'm gonna take these off to use my torch. And we're gonna torch for bubbles. You're gonna go high and fast, and you don't wanna linger on any one spot. This isn't like making cells. You're just gonna go evenly, kinda high, kinda fast. Now I have a particularly powerful torch, so I'm gonna be a little higher. If you're using like a little mini torch, you might wanna get a little closer, but all you're doing is warming the resin. You don't want it to smoke, you don't want it to heat up too much, you're just popping bubbles. So with that said, here it goes. And you can see it. I don't know if it's going to convey on the camera. You can watch all the bubbles disappear. Kind of like that. And this guy. Got a little close on that one. Stay back a little bit because some smoke came up. And I'm going to let that cool a second before I go back and touch it. And drink my tea. And while we just wait a minute to see what the resin does, if we've missed any spots or we missed any bubbles or anything like that, let me take this opportunity to show you a couple different examples of resining or not resining the sides. Now obviously, since all of these are cradled wood that I usually leave natural, I don't resin the sides. You can, however, like I have this painting here that's cradled wood, but because it's only 1/4 of an inch, I went ahead and resined the top of it. As you can see, it's really shiny. I had taped my sides, even though they're painted, and instead of using resin on the sides, when this cured, I used a coat of polyacrylic just to make the sides shiny to match the top. And the reason why I didn't resin the sides, because that requires a lot of babysitting sometimes, and sometimes I'm lazy. And what I mean by that is if you have a painting that's gallery wrapped, something like this one. This is one of the very few that's actual canvas that I have resined. And I don't remember why I did, but I did. It comes in handy now. So this has been resined on top and on the sides. And when you do the sides, that means you're just gonna put your tape, you know, on the bottom here. See how nice and clean it is there? But when you do that, you have to take your finger and rub, 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 rub. Because what it does is makes those little rivulets of resin. So you have to rub, rub, rub to get it to be smooth. And you have to go back and do that for probably the 40 minutes of the open time before the resin starts to set up. Otherwise, it dries bumpy and it looks awful. So you really have to rub that resin in. And I think for that other green painting, I was just lazy. This one, obviously, by doing that, it's nicer because of the continuous surface, particularly on the corners here. Whereas compared to this other green guy, you can tell that the resin stopped here and didn't go on the sides. Even though the sides have a little bit of shine, you can almost feel like that lip right there. So, not as nice. If I sold the two, given that they're both like 10 by 20s, even though this one is on wood, I normally charge more for wood. I would probably charge the same price because that one has the better workmanship on it in terms of the resin job. Since I don't use resin here, this is just the mini wax polyacrylic on the sides. So those are some of the differences or things you can do. Let's take a look at our paintings. Let me put on a fresh pair of gloves so I can pick these up and have a spot of tea. Ooh, maybe some chocolate. Oh, let's get out the chocolate. Where's my chocolate? I'm on this kick with, I have like these dark chocolate. I don't like milk chocolate. I'm dark chocolate all the way. Team dark chocolate. Dark chocolate covered almonds that are just so good. All right, I'm gonna pick these up and try really hard to get in close so you can see. Hold on, I'm trying to get on my other glove. How long is this video already? 40 minutes. Oh my God, I'm gonna try and stop at 45. I can't help it. It's just, you know, a lot. So, painting number 1. Let's look at this guy. Pick him up. What I do is like I get down to eye level, like this. And I'm looking for any pieces of hair that I would pluck out with a straight pin or a safety pin or whatever you have handy, tweezers, and I would look for anything. There's not a mark, there's not a bubble, there's nothing. This guy is ready to just sit here or go undercover and cure. Next one. The ones with a couple coats, the barrier coats, because these were paintings where I used treadmill silicone. This one has a couple bubbles that need popped, but otherwise the coverage is pretty great. So there's maybe a spot, I don't know if you guys can see. This is the tough part. There's a spot right there and a bubble right there. So what I'm gonna do is set him down and just give him a little zip zip with my torch. Also, if you're using a plastic tarp like I am, you gotta be careful because it doesn't really catch on fire, but you'll definitely burn a hole in your tarp using your torch. So you kind of got to be careful. I still have a bubble right there. Just gonna dork around with my finger, re-spread it around. You'll find when you heat up, while the resin is open and still workable, when you heat it up with your torch, a little bit like that, and then go to rub, because it's warm, it moves around better. But there will become a point when it starts setting up that you won't be able to do it. It'll be harder and stickier, and it just won't self-level any longer. So you have to be careful. So play with that, pop those bubbles. That's something right there, or it might just be the canvas. Oh, that's the canvas. And there's a bump in my canvas, so we'll leave that be, otherwise he looks good. So the next one with the barrier, this guy here. A couple bubbles. Let me see. Looking, I don't know if this is helping you guys or not. Couple bubbles, just needs a torch, but otherwise not a mark. No pitting, no separation, no nothing. So I'm just gonna take that guy, give him a torch where I see some extra bubbles. I got too close again. Did you see that smoke? Now I'm talking, otherwise I'm being bad, but this is where you should be wearing this. Definitely, that's what you don't want to be breathing in. So this one has a mark right there, right there. And then I want to show you one other experiment and get on my high horse for a second. So that one, let me mix that up just a little bit, pop those bubbles. Looking really good though, because there's no pitting. I'm just futzing with it for the bubbles. Let that level for a second. Let's look at Marilyn here. Marilyn has some bubbles that need popped. I've got to remember to use the right hand for with my torch. Oh yeah, popped some more bubbles. Had risen from the surface. She's looking fantastic. I'm not even going to touch her. Just trust me. There's not a mark, anything on her. She's looking great. Lastly is the one with no barrier coat. And that one is the worst one of all, as I predicted. Let's see if I can see it. Hopefully within the glare, you can see literally bald spots of this, where the resin hasn't taken at all. There's two bald spots here, all along the edges, another bald spot over on my edge, where the resin has said, yeah, you know what, there's oil there, I don't like it, I'm out of here. I'm scooting, it ran away. And I can sit here and I can futz with it and rub it and say, no, it's okay, it's a safe neighborhood, you can come back. Go ahead. We have crime patrols now. You can stay in this neighborhood. Go ahead. And I can go back and rub it in. I can go and add more more resin. It won't matter. It won't matter. If there's oil on it, it's gonna run away every time. It doesn't matter. Oops, you can't see. Hold on. Back here. So just rub those spots. We're just gonna give it a minute. And you know what? It doesn't like this stand. It must not be big enough. So just put it down flat. There's a bubble. It's already separating from the edges again. And this is where you stand here and you curse a lot. And you're like, damn it. And maybe you add more resin. It won't matter. Maybe you rub it in. Sometimes it's like, maybe if I just rub it in, that actually helps sometimes. Give it a try. Just take your finger and give the whole thing a good rub down. Give it a little massage. Say, have no fear. It's okay. Doesn't that feel nice? Yeah. Come on back to the neighborhood. There we go. And it's like, okay, I'll come back. And then we're just gonna wait 2 minutes. We'll check on our other guys. There's a little bubble in that one. I'm just gonna stick my finger in. This guy looks amazing. Not gonna touch it. Marilyn here looks amazing. And this one doesn't have a name. The green guy, perfect. Perfect. So, we're just gonna give this a second. I'm gonna demonstrate one last thing, and then I'm gonna stop the video for part 2 in a couple hours after they're mostly cured and we peel tape and we'll take a look at them. This one here, it's kind of sort of stained, maybe. Let me pick it up for a second. I do want to show you how the resin, remember all those bumpy lumps and bumps and craters and things? They're gone. They are just totally gone. Look how gorgeous that is. Just totally, totally gone. It's already starting to separate again though on the one corner. It just doesn't like that neighborhood on the corner here. It's already starting to pit. So, the thing I keep seeing people do that drives me crazy is add a dollop or like a drop of silicone to the resin. Now, remember, I'm using resin today as a top coat for my art. This isn't resin art where I'm going to do a pour with it. This is top coat only. I probably should have said that 40 minutes ago. I'll put it in the description. Oil is the enemy. Bottom line, any kind of oil is the enemy. You're changing the chemical compound of the resin by adding oil. Will it fix your pitting? It could. It could also make it cloudy, and I'm going to demonstrate that. So, hold on one sec. Let me get off one glove and just grab my silicone. And we're going to put silicone, like the tiniest of drops, on this pane. So silicone on my finger. I'm going to take this and put like this tiniest of drops right there. And where that pitting is in this one corner, I'm just going to add my silicone and rub it. And I'm gonna rub it and rub it. I'm like, oh, look at that. It's taking away the pitting. Yay, go me. I'm so clever. Hold on, hit the brakes. Here's what it does. Let me lift this up again. I hope it shows. I just made this whole corner cloudy. Can you guys see that cloudy corner right there? You see all that? That's discoloration from the silicone. See that? That's what happens. Instead of having a nice clear picture, you now have added a film. So yeah, you don't have any more pitting, but now you have clouds. Don't add silicone to your resin. If you don't believe me, listen to Ann Upton, listen to the people at Art Resin, listen to the people at Pro Marine. We're telling you, it's just a bad, bad idea. So what I'm gonna do now is get a stick, wipe that all off, and add a touch more silicone to that corner. Hold on, I gotta grab a stick. All right, so that whole part right there where I added the oil, we'll play it safe, or we're just gonna take this corner and we're gonna wipe it off, wipe off. And there, you can see, can you see it? Let me pick it up. Oh, I probably can't get it. Can you see the color, discoloration there? It's almost white instead of being clear. You don't want that on your painting. You do not. All right, I should have running out of time with my resin now. Just take a stick more, add it again, rub it in again, all nice and clear, no silicone at all. And see, look, this is a nice neighborhood. You can stay here. Rub it in, watch it self-level. It doesn't want to stick to the corners because it doesn't have that barrier coat, no matter how well I cleaned it. And we'll give that a spray. Take a peek at our other pieces. Put this back straight. I'm glad I have the tape on the bottom. And more gloves. I'll give it another torch. New. I'll watch it. This guy, green guy here. So this is where I get down really low, like hi, and look for hairs and bubbles and any imperfections whatsoever, particularly along the edges. It's absolutely perfect. The same thing with Marilyn here. She's looking great. The two with the barrier coats. Man, looking great. One little bubble, and I think that I keep seeing the bubble, but I think there's like a little paint piece that's sticking up, and that's what I keep seeing, because otherwise it's pretty perfect. So the ones with barrier coats, easy peasy. Let's come back to this guy without the barrier coat, already separating off from the edges. Already separating again from that one corner. It's the bad hood, I'm telling you. Doesn't like it. See some more bubbles in it too. And already separating in this one corner too, which I know you guys can't do, and I've taken off my gloves, but you're gonna have to trust me. When I film part 2, 8 hours from now, I'm just gonna leave it go. I'm probably gonna have, that's gonna need a second coat. These guys, put the barrier, one coat and we're done. So that's what I'll show you. And oh my goodness, I'm just like talked out. Talk. So yeah, I'm an introvert by nature, so phew, I'm gonna need a nap after this video. Look at this, 54 minutes long. Sorry, an hour, there was a lot to cover. I hope you guys find it useful. The next video should only be a few minutes long for the ending and pulling of the tape, etc. And that'll be it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in a bit. Take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, it's Karen from Waterfall Acrylics. Just real quick, part 2 of the resin video. I'll splice these together. So it's only about 2 hours later. I just wanted to show you a couple things. One is the guy with no barrier coat. I futzed with it for about 10 minutes after I turned the camera off for the first part, and it's better. It's going to need a second coat because it's still pulling away from the edges. I don't want to pick it up because I do want to get these undercover. And then the one that's the card is also, and that one does have a barrier coat. We'll see how it dries, but it has a lot of bubbles. I can't tell if it's bubbles. My shirt's a mess. I apologize. From like little nodules of paint, or if it's the resin. The other pieces are looking great. And then I wanted to show you finally, so there they all are before I put them away. And I think next time I do a pour video, I will just show these at the beginning of that rather than trying to do, you don't need to watch me peel tape. You know, that's pretty easy to do, and I already did a video of me just pouring tape. What I wanted to show you real quick is what happens with the art resin too as it dries. If you leave your stick in it and it starts to dry, you can go like this and hear it cracking, and it's all cracking like this, and look, it starts to peel off from your plastic. And then if you wait too long, it gets harder. But if I do this, oh, look at this, y'all. And then you can just throw it away. Isn't that cool? That's kind of cool, right? So I can just chuck that. I'll probably just leave it in there, let it harden for a while, and then toss it away. But all of the plastic, you know, all the resin, once it's cured, comes out, and you can have this whistling clean again for reuse for other resin projects. So highly recommend those. And yeah, that's it. There's the collection. I'll show them when they're finished. I have high hopes for now. The one that isn't doesn't have a barrier coat, it's actually looking pretty good. We'll see what happens, and then determine whether or not it needs a second coat. So the one I want to fail, I think might prove me wrong, except for maybe this one little edge where it's, I take that back. It's probably going to need a second coat because I'm getting some potholes, so, or pitting. So yeah, that's it for me. Thus concludes the lesson on resining. I hope you guys like it. It's going to be an hour long, I'm sorry. I'll see you again for an actual pour. So take care, bye-bye.